In a faraway part of the galaxy, an alien empire known as the Zarnak Collective had been watching Earth for many years. Their leader, Commander Varric, found the small blue planet fascinating. It was full of life, but seemed primitive in terms of technology. On their massive warship, the Ecliptic Dawn, analysts like Kale and Rin spent hours studying humanity through intercepted radio signals and images taken from space. They noticed strange things about Earth, things that didn't make sense. But one day, something truly unusual caught their attention. Deep within Earth's crust, there was a faint energy signature. At first, it seemed weak, almost unnoticeable, but when they focused their instruments on it, they realized it wasn't natural. It didn't match anything they had ever seen before, not from stars, planets, or even advanced machines. This energy was different. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. To the Zarnak, this suggested intelligence, though not the kind they were used to. It wasn't biological, at least not in any way they could understand. Meanwhile, back on Earth, ordinary people went about their lives without knowing they were being watched. In New York City, Jake Monroe sat hunched over his computer late into the night. He was a software engineer working on a new project for his startup. His office was dimly lit, with only the glow of his monitor lighting up the room. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as he tried to fix a bug that had been causing problems all week. Outside his window, the city buzzed with activity, cars honking, lights flashing, and people moving quickly along the streets below. Jake barely noticed. His mind was completely focused on his work. Across town, Emily Dawson was preparing for an important trip. She was a geologist who specialized in studying rocks and minerals. Recently, she had detected some strange seismic activity near the South Pole. The readings were odd, unlike anything she had seen before. Normally, earthquakes followed predictable patterns, but these vibrations were irregular and seemed to come from deep underground. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening. Her team had already packed their equipment, and tomorrow they would leave for Antarctica to investigate further. Neither Jake nor Emily knew how connected their lives were about to become. For now, they lived separate existences, unaware of the larger forces at play. While Jake debugged his program and Emily planned her expedition, the Zarnak continued to observe them closely. They zoomed in on cities, towns, and even remote areas where humans rarely ventured. Through their advanced technology, they saw everything: the crowded markets in India, the vast deserts of Africa, the icy plains of Antarctica. But what intrigued them most was the energy signature coming from beneath the ice. Commander Varric called a meeting aboard the Ecliptic Dawn. He gathered his top advisors, including Kale and Rin, to discuss what they had discovered. This signal, Varric began, pacing back and forth in the command center, is unlike anything we've encountered. It's intelligent, yet it doesn't appear to be biological. Could it be a machine? A relic left behind by an ancient civilization? Kale nodded thoughtfully. It's possible. If it is a machine, it must be incredibly old. Its design doesn't resemble anything in our database. Rin chimed in, her voice calm but firm. We need to learn more before making assumptions. Let's send a probe to investigate. We can't risk sending troops until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Varric agreed. He ordered the construction of a small, stealthy drone capable of penetrating Earth's atmosphere without being detected. Once it reached the source of the signal, it would collect data and send it back to the Ecliptic Dawn. Until then, they would keep observing from a distance. Back on Earth, Emily and her team arrived in Antarctica after a long journey. The landscape was harsh and unforgiving, with biting winds and endless stretches of snow and ice. Despite the challenges, they set up camp quickly and began drilling into the frozen ground. After several hours of hard work, they hit something solid. Pulling it out, they found fragments of a metallic material that shimmered strangely in the light. It wasn't gold, silver, or any other element they recognized. "What is this?" one of the team members asked, holding up a piece of the mysterious substance. "I don't know," Emily replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "But whatever it is, it's not natural. We need to run tests." As the team worked, they started noticing strange things. The metal emitted low-frequency vibrations that could be felt if you held it close enough. It also seemed to react to changes in temperature, glowing faintly when exposed to extreme cold. Intrigued, Emily contacted Daniel Carter, a physicist she had collaborated with in the past. Daniel specialized in quantum mechanics and might be able to shed light on what they had found. Daniel wasted no time. He booked the next flight to Antarctica and arrived within 2 days. Together, he and Emily examined the metal under microscopes and ran simulations on powerful computers. Slowly, they began to uncover clues. The vibrations matched patterns similar to mathematical equations, ones that hinted at communication rather than randomness. Was it possible that the metal was trying to send a message? While Emily and Daniel worked tirelessly in Antarctica, Jake stumbled upon something strange while working on a side project for NASA. He had been analyzing satellite imagery of Earth's polar regions when he noticed unusual patterns in the ice. Dark lines crisscrossed the surface, forming shapes that looked almost deliberate. At first, he thought it might be a glitch in the imaging software, but the more he studied it, the more convinced he became that it was real. Curious, Jake posted his findings online. He included detailed images and descriptions, asking others for their opinions. Within hours, his post gained traction. Amateur astronomers and conspiracy theorists joined the discussion, speculating about everything from secret government experiments to alien artifacts. Among the commenters was Sarah Bennett, a journalist known for covering scientific breakthroughs. She reached out to Jake privately, expressing interest in his discovery. "Have you considered that this might be linked to recent reports of seismic anomalies in Antarctica?" Sarah asked during their video call. Jake frowned. "I hadn't heard about that." "What do you mean?" Sarah explained what little information she had gathered about Emily Dawson's expedition. She suggested they collaborate to dig deeper. Jake agreed, and together they started piecing together evidence that pointed toward something extraordinary happening near the South Pole. Unbeknownst to them, the Zarnak probe had already entered Earth's atmosphere. Silent and invisible, it hovered above Antarctica, scanning the area with precision. Its sensors confirmed the presence of the energy signature, pinpointing its exact location. Data streamed back to the ecliptic dawn, where Kale and Rin eagerly analyzed the results. What they learned both excited and frightened them. "This is beyond anything we imagined," Kale said, staring at the readouts. "The signal isn't just intelligent. It's alive. It's communicating. Alive." Varric repeated the word silently, his mind racing with possibilities. If the signal was indeed sentient, then Earth was far more complex and dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The Zarnak probe descended silently over Antarctica, its sleek form invisible to human eyes. It moved with precision, guided by advanced technology that allowed it to avoid detection. As it approached the source of the mysterious energy signature, the probe's sensors began picking up clearer readings. The signal was stronger here, pulsing steadily like a heartbeat. To the Zarnak, this confirmed their earlier suspicions. Whatever was buried beneath the ice wasn't just intelligent. It was alive in some way. Back at Emily Dawson's camp, things were getting stranger by the hour. After extracting more fragments of the metallic material, her team noticed subtle changes in their equipment. Instruments that had been working perfectly fine started behaving erratically. Compass needles spun wildly, and digital screens flickered on and off without explanation. At first, they thought it might be caused by electromagnetic interference, but none of their usual troubleshooting methods fixed the problem. Daniel Carter tried to stay calm as he examined the data. "This isn't normal interference," he said, adjusting his glasses. "It's almost like the metal is affecting our gear intentionally." Emily frowned. "Intentionally? You think it's doing this on purpose?" "I don't know what else to call it," Daniel admitted. "Look at these readings. They're not random. They follow patterns, like a language. Emily leaned closer to the screen, studying the numbers and graphs displayed there. She couldn't deny it. The vibrations coming from the metal did seem deliberate. If they could decode them, maybe they'd finally understand what they were dealing with. But time was running out. Supplies were limited, and the harsh Antarctic environment made every task harder than usual. Meanwhile, Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett continued their investigation online. Using satellite imagery and open-source data, they pieced together a clearer picture of the strange patterns Jake had discovered. The dark lines crisscrossing the ice weren't natural formations. They formed shapes that resembled circuits or pathways. Whoever, or whatever, had created them clearly had a purpose in mind. Sarah shared her findings with Jake during another video call. These patterns matched descriptions of ancient symbols found in ruins around the world, she explained. Some researchers believe they're connected to lost civilizations. Jake raised an eyebrow. You're saying aliens built this thing under the ice thousands of years ago? It's possible, Sarah replied. Or maybe humans had helped back then. Either way, we're looking at something big. Their conversation shifted when Jake mentioned Emily Dawson's expedition. Sarah suggested reaching out to her directly, believing that combining their efforts might lead to faster answers. Jake hesitated. He didn't want to intrude, but eventually agreed. He sent Emily an email explaining who he was and what he and Sarah had uncovered so far. To their surprise, Emily responded quickly. She was cautious at first, wary of outsiders interfering with her work. But after exchanging a few messages, she realized Jake and Sarah might have valuable insights. They arranged a virtual meeting where everyone could share what they knew. During the call, Emily showed images of the metallic fragments and explained how they reacted to temperature changes. Daniel added details about the mathematical patterns embedded in vibrations. Jake and Sarah presented their analysis of the satellite imagery, pointing out how the patterns aligned with ancient symbols. By the end of the discussion, it was clear they were all chasing the same mystery. While humanity worked together to unravel the puzzle, the Zarnak probe completed its scan of the area. Data streamed back to the ecliptic dawn, revealing even more about the energy source. Kale and Rin pored over the information, their excitement growing with each new discovery. The signal wasn't just sentient, it appeared to be guarding something. Guarding? Commander Varric asked when Kale reported the findings. What do you mean? Kale hesitated before answering. The signal reacts aggressively to anything that gets too close. It's protecting Earth. Varric's expression darkened. Protecting Earth. That changed everything. If the entity beneath the ice was acting as a shield for the planet, then invading Earth would be far riskier than anyone had anticipated. Destroying or tampering with the Guardian could trigger consequences beyond their control. Despite this revelation, not everyone aboard the Ecliptic Dawn shared Varric's caution. General Torin, a high-ranking military officer, saw opportunity instead of danger. He believed the Zarnak should strike now, disabling the Guardian before it became a threat. If we destroy it, he argued during a council meeting, Earth will be defenseless. We can take what we need and leave. Varric disagreed strongly. We don't know enough yet. This Guardian could unleash forces capable of destroying entire star systems. Is conquering one primitive planet worth risking everything? Tensions rose as the council debated the matter. In the end, Varric managed to convince most members to hold off on any aggressive actions, for now. But General Torin remained unconvinced. He quietly began assembling a small strike force, determined to act on his own if necessary. Back on Earth, Emily and her team made another breakthrough. Using Daniel's expertise in quantum mechanics, they amplified the vibrations emitted by the metal. For the first time, they heard something, a faint hum that seemed to carry meaning. It wasn't words exactly, but tones and rhythms that resonated deep within them. Emily felt a chill run down her spine as she listened. What does it mean? One of her colleagues whispered. I'm not sure, Emily replied softly. but I think it's trying to tell us something. As the days passed, the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together. Jake and Sarah gathered more evidence linking the patterns in the ice to ancient myths about protectors watching over Earth. Emily and Daniel refined their understanding of the metallic material, learning how to interact with it in ways that elicited stronger responses. Each step brought them closer to uncovering the truth, but also closer to attracting unwanted attention. Unbeknownst to them, the Zarnok probe had already detected their activities. Its sensors picked up the amplified vibrations and flagged them as potential threats. Back on the ecliptic dawn, alarms blared as analysts scrambled to interpret the new data. Kale turned to Varric with a worried look. "They're awakening it," he said grimly. "If they keep going, the Guardian might activate fully." Varric clenched his fists, realizing the situation was spiraling out of control. Humanity was stumbling into territory it didn't understand, and the Zarnok's presence only complicated matters further. The question now was whether they could prevent disaster, or if it was already too late. The Zarnok probe continued to hover silently above Antarctica, its advanced sensors monitoring every move made by Emily Dawson's team. The metallic fragments they had uncovered were emitting stronger vibrations now, almost as if responding to the humans' attempts to communicate. Back on the ecliptic dawn, Kale and Rin watched the data stream in with growing unease. The Guardian beneath the ice was waking up, and it wasn't happy. Commander Varric paced the command center, his mind racing. He knew time was running out. If the Guardian activated fully, it could unleash forces no one, not even the Zarnok, could predict. "We need to intervene," he said finally, turning to his advisors. "But carefully. We can't let General Torin act on his own." Kale nodded. "Agreed. If we send reinforcements now, we might be able to stabilize the situation before it escalates." Varric gave the order for a second, larger probe to descend to Earth. Unlike the first, this one would make contact, not to attack, but to observe and potentially negotiate. It was risky, but Varric believed it was their only chance to avoid disaster. As the probe prepared to leave the ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a tightrope over an abyss. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Emily and her team worked tirelessly to decode the vibrations coming from the metallic fragments. With Daniel's help, they built a device capable of amplifying the signals, hoping to establish clearer communication. Late one night, as the wind howled outside their tent, they powered up the machine. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the hum grew louder. This time, it wasn't just random tones. It sounded like music, layered and complex, filling the room with a strange warmth. Emily closed her eyes, trying to focus. She felt something, a presence, distant yet aware. It wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. It simply existed, watching, waiting. When she opened her eyes, she saw that the others were experiencing it too. Their faces reflected awe and fear in equal measure. "What is this?" Daniel whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Emily replied. "But I think it's trying to tell us something important." While Emily's team wrestled with the implications of their discovery, Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett faced challenges of their own. Their online collaboration had drawn attention, not all of it positive. Conspiracy theorists accused them of fabricating evidence, while government agencies began monitoring their activity. One evening, as Jake scrolled through comments on his latest post, he noticed a message from an anonymous user. The text was short but chilling. "Stop digging. For your own safety." Jake showed the message to Sarah during their next call. "Do you think someone knows what we're doing?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "It's possible," Sarah admitted. "Or maybe it's just a troll trying to scare us off." "Either way, we can't back down now," Jake said firmly. "If anything, this proves we're onto something big." Sarah agreed, though she couldn't ignore the nagging sense of danger. They decided to take precautions, encrypting their communications and meeting in person whenever possible. Despite the risks, they pressed forward, determined to uncover the truth. Unbeknownst to them, the Zarnak probe's arrival had already started affecting Earth's environment. Wildlife near the South Pole began behaving strangely. Penguins fled their colonies en masse, sliding across the ice in chaotic patterns. Seals barked incessantly, their calls echoing eerily through the frozen landscape. Even the weather seemed to shift unpredictably, with sudden gusts of wind battering Emily's camp. At first, Emily thought it was just another Antarctic storm, but when the disturbances persisted, she realized something else was going on. She stepped outside her tent and scanned the horizon. The air shimmered faintly, though there was no visible source of light. It reminded her of heat waves rising off asphalt on a summer day. But here, in the freezing cold, it made no sense. Daniel joined her a moment later, holding a tablet displaying real-time sensor readings. "Something's interfering with our equipment again," he said. "And it's getting worse." Emily frowned. Could it be related to the vibrations? Before Daniel could answer, a loud crack split the air. Both turned toward the sound, their hearts pounding. A massive fissure had opened in the ice not far from their camp, glowing faintly with an otherworldly blue light. The vibrations from the metallic fragments grew louder, almost deafening. Whatever was buried beneath the surface was closer than ever. Back aboard the Ecliptic Dawn, alarms blared as the second probe approached Earth. Kale and Rin monitored its progress closely, noting increased energy fluctuations around the fissure. "It's reacting to us," Kale said, his voice tense. "The Guardian knows we're here." Commander Varric clenched his jaw. "Tell the probe to hold position, no sudden moves." As the probe hovered above the fissure, its cameras captured images of the glowing chasm below. Strange symbols etched into the ice pulsed in sync with the vibrations. To the Zarnak, it was clear. The Guardian was ancient, powerful, and very much alive. General Torin, however, saw only an obstacle. Ignoring Varric's orders, he deployed his strike force, sending several small ships to disable the Guardian. His plan was simple: neutralize the threat, then seize control of Earth. But as his fleet descended toward the planet, they triggered a reaction neither he nor anyone else could have predicted. The fissure widened, releasing a surge of energy that rippled outward. Birds took flight in panic, and the ground shook violently. Emily and her team stumbled out of their tents, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. In the distance, Jake and Sarah watched in horror as the sky filled with strange colors, like an aurora borealis dancing at midday. "What's happening?" Sarah shouted over the roar of the wind. "I don't know," Jake yelled back. "But we need to get out of here." On the Ecliptic Dawn, Commander Varric watched the chaos unfold with mounting dread. The Guardian wasn't just defending itself, it was warning everyone to stay away. And if General Torin continued his assault, the consequences would be catastrophic. For now, humanity remained oblivious to the cosmic drama unfolding above their heads. But as the Guardian's power grew, it became clear that Earth's fate hung in the balance. And no one, human or alien, was safe from what came next. The fissure in the ice glowed brighter with each passing second, casting an eerie blue light across the desolate Antarctic landscape. Emily Dawson and her team scrambled to secure their equipment as the ground trembled beneath their feet. The vibrations from the metallic fragments had reached a deafening pitch, making it hard to think clearly. Daniel shouted over the noise, "We need to shut down the device. It's making things worse." Emily hesitated. Shutting it off might stop the escalating reaction, but it could also sever their fragile connection with whatever was buried below. She glanced at the glowing chasm, its edges pulsing rhythmically like a living thing. "If we turn it off now, we might lose our chance to understand what this is," she said finally. "Let's give it one more minute." But time was running out. General Torin's strike force descended rapidly through Earth's atmosphere, their sleek ships invisible to human eyes. They targeted the fissure directly, firing beams of concentrated energy meant to destabilize the Guardian. The moment the first shot hit, the entire area erupted in chaos. The ice cracked violently, sending shards flying in every direction. A shockwave knocked Emily and her team off their feet. Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett, who had been monitoring the situation from a safe distance, felt the impact too. The ground shook so hard that Jake nearly dropped his laptop. On the screen, satellite images showed strange lights spreading outward from the South Pole, illuminating the sky in unnatural hues. "This isn't natural," Sarah muttered, gripping the edge of the table for balance. "Whatever's happening down there, it's not just geological." Back aboard the Ecliptic Dawn, Commander Varric watched the unfolding disaster with growing alarm. The Guardian's energy field expanded exponentially, pushing back against the Zarnok strike force. Ships wobbled mid-air as their systems malfunctioned under the strain. Cale turned to Varric, his face pale. "Sir, if the Guardian activates fully, it could destabilize the entire planet." Varric clenched his fists. He knew then that Torin's reckless actions had crossed a line. Turning to his communications officer, he barked, "Send a direct order to recall all forces immediately, and get me General Torin on the line." It took several tense minutes before Torin responded. His voice crackled over the comms, defiant and unapologetic. "Commander, we're close to neutralizing the threat. If we retreat now, we risk losing control of the situation entirely." "You've done enough damage already," Varric snapped, his patience wearing thin. "Stand down, or I will personally see to your removal from command." Torn between loyalty to his leader and the urgency of the mission, Torin reluctantly ordered his fleet to withdraw, but the damage had already been done. The Guardian's energy surged even higher, creating a shimmering dome around the polar region. Within moments, the protective barrier extended outward, covering the entire planet. To anyone watching from space, Earth now appeared encased in a translucent shield, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. On the ground, Emily and her team struggled to recover from the initial blast. When the shaking finally subsided, they cautiously approached the fissure again. The metallic fragments they had uncovered earlier were no longer inert. They floated mid-air, spinning slowly as though caught in an invisible current. The hum that accompanied them had transformed into a symphony of tones, resonating deep within their chests. Daniel stared at the fragments, awestruck. "It's alive. It's really alive." Emily nodded, her heart pounding. "And it's communicating. We just have to figure out how to listen." Meanwhile, Jake and Sarah pieced together reports of strange phenomena occurring worldwide. Auroras lit up skies far from the poles, while electronic devices malfunctioned sporadically. Governments scrambled to explain the events, issuing vague statements about solar flares and geomagnetic storms. But Jake and Sarah knew better. Something monumental had happened, and humanity was only beginning to feel its effects. As the hours passed, the Guardian's energy stabilized, forming a permanent shield around Earth. The Zarnok fleet retreated to a safe distance, observing silently. Commander Varric convened an emergency council meeting to assess the situation. The mood was somber. Even General Torin seemed subdued. "We underestimated Earth," Varric admitted, addressing the assembled officers. "This Guardian is more powerful than anything we've encountered. Attacking it further would be suicide, not just for us, but for countless civilizations across the galaxy." Cale chimed in, holding up a data tablet. "Preliminary analysis suggests the Guardian acts as a failsafe. Any attempt to harm Earth triggers catastrophic consequences, potentially destabilizing entire star systems." Rin added, "Its purpose is clear: to protect. But why? And who or what created it?" Varric leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Those questions may never be answered. What matters now is that we respect its role. Earth is untouchable." General Torin scowled but didn't argue. For once, he seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. The Council unanimously agreed to declare Earth off-limits, vowing never to interfere again. As the meeting concluded, Varric couldn't help but wonder if they had narrowly avoided a disaster of galactic proportions. Back on Earth, Emily, Daniel, Jake, and Sarah connected via video call to share their findings. Each had witnessed pieces of the puzzle, but together they began to form a clearer picture. The Guardian wasn't just a relic of the past, it was an active protector, guarding Earth from threats both known and unknown. Its origins remained a mystery, but its message was undeniable. Leave Earth alone. As they discussed next steps, Emily voiced her concerns. If word gets out about this, people will panic. Governments might try to weaponize it, or worse, provoke it. Sarah nodded. We need to handle this carefully. Maybe we can work with trusted allies to prepare defenses without causing mass hysteria. Jake suggested reaching out to select scientists and policymakers, forming a small coalition dedicated to understanding and safeguarding the Guardian. Everyone agreed it was the best course of action. For now. Though life returned to normal for most people, those aware of the truth couldn't shake the feeling that Earth had changed forever. The Guardian's presence reminded them of how fragile their existence truly was, and how much depended on respecting the delicate balance keeping their world safe. In the days that followed, the Zarnak fleet disappeared into the void, leaving behind only silence. Humanity remained blissfully unaware of the cosmic drama that had unfolded above their heads. But for those who knew the truth, the memory of that fateful day lingered, a reminder that Earth was protected by something far greater than themselves. Commander Varric stood silently in the observation deck of the ecliptic dawn, staring out at the glowing shield now surrounding Earth. The shimmering barrier stretched across the planet like a second atmosphere, pulsing faintly with an energy that defied understanding. It was beautiful and terrifying. Varric knew that the Zarnak Collective had narrowly avoided a catastrophe. If General Torin's strike force had succeeded in disabling the Guardian, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Inside the command center, tensions remained high. General Torin paced back and forth, his face red with frustration. He still believed the mission could have succeeded if they had pressed harder. We had them on the ropes, he muttered to one of his subordinates. One more push, and we could have broken through. Kale overheard the comment and shot Torin a disapproving glare. You don't understand what you almost unleashed, Kale said sharply. That Guardian isn't just some machine. It's a force of nature. Pushing it further would have destroyed us all. Torin sneered but didn't respond. For now, he had no choice but to follow orders. Commander Varric had made it clear. Any further aggression against Earth would result in immediate disciplinary action. Still, Torin's resentment simmered beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to resurface. Meanwhile, aboard Earth, Emily Dawson and her team worked tirelessly to document everything they had witnessed. The metallic fragments continued to float midair, their glow softening as the Guardian's energy stabilized. Emily ran tests, analyzing every detail she could gather. She wanted answers about the Guardian's origins, its purpose, and why it had chosen this moment to awaken. Daniel stayed by her side, offering insights based on his knowledge of quantum mechanics. It's not just protecting Earth, he said thoughtfully. It's adapting. Every time we try to interact with it, it responds differently. It's learning from us. Emily nodded, her mind racing. And it's communicating too. Those tones, it's trying to tell us something. We just need to figure out how to listen. Back in New York, Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett collaborated remotely with Emily and Daniel. Using satellite imagery and data collected during the event, they mapped the extent of the Guardian's influence. The shield wasn't uniform. It pulsed stronger in certain areas, particularly near fault lines and tectonic plates. This suggested that the Guardian was tied to Earth's natural systems, amplifying and stabilizing them. Sarah shared her observations during a video call. It's like the Guardian is woven into the planet itself, she explained. Maybe it uses Earth's magnetic field to power its defenses. Jake leaned closer to the screen, his expression serious. If that's true, Then messing with it could destabilize the whole planet. We can't let anyone, even our own governments, try to exploit it. The group agreed to keep their findings confidential, sharing information only with trusted allies. They formed a loose coalition, recruiting scientists, engineers, and policymakers who understood the stakes. Their goal was simple: ensure humanity respected the Guardian's role without causing panic or provoking further interference. As days turned into weeks, life on Earth seemed to return to normal. Governments issued vague statements about geomagnetic anomalies, blaming the strange phenomena on solar activity. Most people accepted these explanations without question, unaware of the larger forces at play. But for those involved in the secret coalition, the memory of the Guardian's awakening lingered like a shadow. Emily and Daniel returned to their respective labs, continuing their research quietly. They sent encrypted reports to Jake and Sarah, who compiled the data into a comprehensive file. Slowly, they began piecing together a theory about the Guardian's origins. Ancient myths and symbols found in ruins around the world hinted at a forgotten civilization, one advanced enough to create such a powerful protector. Could humans have built the Guardian millennia ago, only to lose knowledge of it over time? Or had they received help from extraterrestrial visitors? While humanity grappled with these questions, the Zarnuk fleet prepared to leave Earth's vicinity entirely. Commander Varric called a final meeting aboard the Ecliptic Dawn to address his crew. Standing before rows of officers and analysts, he spoke with authority. "Earth is untouchable," he declared. "The Guardian has made that abundantly clear. Our presence here poses a risk, not just to ourselves, but to countless others across the galaxy. From this day forward, Earth will remain off-limits." His words were met with silence. Even General Torin, seated at the back of the room, didn't object. The gravity of what they had witnessed weighed heavily on everyone. As the meeting concluded, Varric privately confronted Torin, warning him against any future attempts to defy orders. "If I find out you're planning anything reckless again," Varric said coldly, "you'll answer directly to me." Torin clenched his jaw but gave a curt nod. For now, he would comply. But his ambition burned brighter than ever. As the Zarnuk fleet departed, the Ecliptic Dawn left behind drones programmed to monitor Earth from a safe distance. These devices relayed real-time data back to the collective, ensuring they wouldn't be caught off guard again. Despite their withdrawal, the Zarnuk remained vigilant, aware that Earth's protector was unlike anything they had encountered before. Back on Earth, the coalition expanded cautiously. Scientists from different fields joined forces, pooling resources and expertise. Engineers developed new technologies inspired by the Guardian's energy patterns, hoping to harness its power responsibly. Policymakers drafted contingency plans, preparing for scenarios where the Guardian might react aggressively again. Through it all, Emily, Daniel, Jake, and Sarah remained at the heart of the effort. They communicated regularly, sharing updates and discussing strategies. Though they came from different backgrounds, they shared a common goal: protecting Earth while respecting the Guardian's role. Late one night, Emily sat alone in her lab, staring at the floating metallic fragments. The hum had softened, but never disappeared completely. She felt a deep sense of responsibility weighing on her shoulders. Whatever the Guardian was, it had entrusted them with knowledge, and the burden of keeping that knowledge safe. Across the globe, Jake stared at his computer screen, reviewing the latest satellite images. The shield glowed faintly, a constant reminder of Earth's unseen protector. He sighed, feeling both awe and fear. Humanity had survived this encounter, but the experience had changed them. They now knew they weren't alone in the universe, and that some mysteries were better left undisturbed. For now, Earth stood protected, its fragile balance preserved by an ancient sentinel buried deep within its crust. And though most people went about their lives unaware, a small group of individuals carried the weight of that truth, determined to honor the Guardian's silent vigilance. General Torin paced the dimly lit chamber of his private quarters aboard the Ecliptic Dawn, his mind racing with frustration and ambition. Commander Varric's orders to stand down had been clear, but Torin couldn't accept defeat so easily. Earth was a treasure trove of resources, water, minerals, and untapped energy sources that could fuel the Zarnak Collective for centuries. To him, abandoning such a prize felt like cowardice. He wasn't alone in his discontent. Several high-ranking officers shared his views, whispering among themselves about how Varric's caution was holding them back. "The Guardian is powerful," Torin muttered to Captain Lyra, one of his closest allies. "But it's not invincible. If we strike quickly and decisively, we can disable it before it reacts." Lyra hesitated, her loyalty torn between duty and ambition. "Commander Varric has forbidden any further action against Earth," she reminded him. "If we disobey, we risk court-martial, or worse." Torin smirked, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Varric is too afraid to take risks. But history remembers those who act boldly. If we succeed, no one will question our methods. They'll celebrate us as heroes." Reluctantly, Lyra agreed to help. Together, they began assembling a small, secretive strike team composed of trusted soldiers willing to follow orders without asking questions. They equipped their ships with experimental weapons designed to disrupt energy fields, hoping these tools would give them an edge against the Guardian. The operation would be swift and precise, targeting the fissure in Antarctica, where the Guardian's core was believed to reside. Meanwhile, on Earth, Emily Dawson and her coalition worked tirelessly to understand the Guardian's behavior. Using data collected during its awakening, they developed a rudimentary map of its energy network. The shield surrounding Earth wasn't static. It shifted dynamically, responding to external stimuli. This adaptability suggested the Guardian was more than just a passive protector. It actively monitored threats and adjusted accordingly. Daniel Carter spent long hours analyzing the metallic fragments, which continued to hover mysteriously in Emily's lab. He discovered that the fragments emitted low-frequency vibrations when exposed to certain wavelengths of light. By fine-tuning their equipment, he managed to amplify these vibrations, creating patterns that resembled musical notes. "It's almost like it's singing," Daniel said one evening, playing back the recording for Emily. Emily listened intently, her brow furrowed. "If it's singing, then maybe it's trying to communicate something specific. We just need to decode it." Across town, Jake Monroe collaborated with Sarah Bennett to cross-reference the Guardian's energy signatures with ancient symbols found in human history. They noticed striking similarities between the glowing patterns etched into the Antarctic ice and carvings discovered in ruins across the globe. These symbols often appeared in myths about protectors or guardians, beings tasked with safeguarding humanity from destruction. "We're dealing with something older than civilization itself," Jake said during a video call with Emily and Daniel. "Maybe humans didn't create the Guardian, but they knew about it." Sarah nodded. "And if they knew about it, then maybe there's a way to interact with it safely. Something in those ancient texts might hold the key." Encouraged by this possibility, the group decided to consult experts in archaeology and linguistics. They reached out to Dr. Laura Myers, a renowned scholar specializing in prehistoric cultures. After reviewing the evidence, Laura expressed cautious optimism. "These symbols are part of a universal language, one that transcends time and geography. If you can interpret them correctly, you might be able to establish a dialogue with the Guardian." While humanity worked to unlock the Guardian's secrets, General Torin finalized his plans. Under cover of darkness, his strike team launched from the ecliptic dawn, cloaked in invisibility fields to avoid detection. Their ships descended rapidly toward Earth, aiming directly for the fissure in Antarctica. As they approached, however, they triggered an immediate reaction. The Guardian's energy surged violently, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Birds scattered from the sky, and the ground shook as if struck by an earthquake. Emily and her team, still stationed near the fissure, barely had time to react. The metallic fragments flared brightly, emitting a piercing hum that forced everyone to cover their ears. "Something's coming," Daniel shouted over the noise. "We need to evacuate." Before they could move, the air shimmered, and the fissure widened dramatically. A blinding light erupted from within, illuminating the entire area. In the distance, Tauren's ships faltered, their systems failing under the strain of the Guardian's power. Alarms blared as the pilots struggled to regain control, but it was too late. Their weapons malfunctioned, and their engines sputtered. On board the lead ship, Tauren clenched his fists in fury. "Fire everything we've got," he ordered, ignoring the protests of his crew. "We can't let this thing win." His defiance proved catastrophic. The moment the ships unleashed their full arsenal, the Guardian retaliated with overwhelming force. A massive pulse of energy shot upward, enveloping the fleet in a searing blaze of light. One by one, the ships were disabled, plummeting harmlessly into the icy wasteland below. Back aboard the Ecliptic Dawn, Commander Varric received panicked reports from nearby drones monitoring the situation. "General Tauren has disobeyed orders," Kell reported grimly. His strike team engaged the Guardian and failed. Varric's expression darkened. "How bad is the damage?" The Guardian's shield expanded briefly, but has since stabilized. Ren replied. "No casualties reported on Earth, but Tauren's forces are neutralized. He's stranded on the surface." Varric sighed deeply, realizing the implications of Tauren's betrayal. Not only had he endangered the mission, but he had also jeopardized the Zarnok Collective's standing in the galaxy. There would be consequences for Tauren and possibly for Varric himself. On Earth, Emily and her team emerged from their shelter, shaken but unharmed. The fissure had returned to its previous state, glowing faintly but otherwise calm. The metallic fragments floated peacefully once more, their hum reduced to a gentle murmur. It was as if the Guardian had reset itself after repelling the threat. Jake and Sarah arrived shortly afterward, having tracked the disturbance remotely. "What happened here?" Sarah asked, surveying the scene. Emily explained what they had witnessed, her voice tinged with awe. "The Guardian protected us. Whatever Tauren tried to do, it stopped him cold." Jake frowned. "Do you think he'll try again?" Daniel shook his head. "Not if he values his life. That display was a warning, and I doubt anyone will ignore it twice." As the group gathered their equipment, they reflected on the significance of what had occurred. The Guardian had proven itself more than capable of defending Earth, but at what cost? Its power was immense, yet unpredictable. Humanity's survival depended on respecting its boundaries, even as they sought to understand it better. For now, Earth remained safe, encased in the Guardian's shimmering shield, but the memory of Tauren's failed assault served as a stark reminder. Some forces were beyond comprehension, and tampering with them could have dire consequences. Commander Varric stood in the war room of the Ecliptic Dawn, his expression stern as he addressed the assembled council. The failure of General Tauren's strike team had left the Zarnok Collective reeling, not just from the loss of resources, but from the undeniable proof that Earth was truly untouchable. General Tauren acted against direct orders. Varric began, his voice cutting through the tense silence. His reckless actions endangered not only our fleet, but also the stability of this region of space. We cannot tolerate such insubordination. Tauren sat at the far end of the table, his face flushed with anger and shame. He clenched his fists under the table, struggling to maintain his composure. When Varric turned to him, his tone softened slightly but remained firm. "You will be stripped of your rank and confined to quarters until we decide your fate. Is that understood?" Tauren nodded stiffly, though his eyes burned with resentment. For now, he had no choice but to comply. But deep down, he vowed to find a way to redeem himself and reclaim his power. With Tauren neutralized, Varric focused on damage control. He ordered the remaining fleet to retreat even further from Earth's orbit, ensuring they stayed well beyond the range of the Guardian's energy field. Drones continued to monitor the planet from a safe distance, relaying data back to the Ecliptic Dawn. Analysts like Kale and Rin worked tirelessly to interpret this information, searching for any weaknesses or vulnerabilities in the Guardians' defenses. So far, their findings confirmed what they already feared. The Guardian was an impenetrable force, capable of adapting to any threat. Meanwhile, on Earth, Emily Dawson and her coalition faced a new challenge. News of strange phenomena had begun leaking to the public. Reports of glowing skies, malfunctioning electronics, and unusual animal behavior spread across social media, sparking widespread speculation. Conspiracy theories flourished, ranging from alien invasions to government experiments gone wrong. While most people dismissed these stories as nonsense, some journalists and researchers dug deeper, piecing together clues that pointed to something far more extraordinary. Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett worked around the clock to manage the flow of information. They knew revealing the truth about the Guardian could cause panic, or worse, provoke attempts to exploit it. To prevent this, they collaborated with trusted allies in the scientific community to release carefully worded statements. These explanations attributed the anomalies to natural causes, such as geomagnetic storms and atmospheric disturbances. While not entirely convincing, they were enough to satisfy casual curiosity and buy the coalition more time. Emily and Daniel focused on understanding the Guardians' communication patterns. Using Dr. Laura Meyer's expertise in ancient symbols, they developed a rudimentary system for interpreting the vibrations emitted by the metallic fragments. By matching these tones to specific carvings found in prehistoric ruins, they identified recurring themes, concepts like protection, balance, and unity. It was slow, painstaking work, but each breakthrough brought them closer to establishing meaningful dialogue with the Guardian. One evening, as Emily adjusted the settings on her equipment, the metallic fragments responded unexpectedly. Instead of emitting their usual hum, they produced a series of distinct notes that formed a melody. The sound was haunting yet beautiful, resonating deeply within everyone present. Daniel stopped what he was doing and stared in awe. "It's not random," he whispered. This is deliberate." Emily nodded, her heart racing. "It's trying to tell us something. Maybe it's acknowledging our efforts." Encouraged by this development, the group decided to test their hypothesis. They used modified instruments to replicate the melody, playing it back to the fragments. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the fragments began to glow brighter, pulsing in sync with the music. A faint image appeared in the air above them, a swirling pattern resembling the auroras they had observed during the Guardian's awakening. Sarah watched the display with wide eyes. "Is it showing us its language?" "It's possible," Jake replied, typing furiously on his laptop. "If we can decode this, we might finally understand how to communicate directly." As the coalition worked to decipher the Guardian's message, General Torin plotted his next move. Stripped of his rank and confined to quarters, he stewed in bitterness, replaying the events in Antarctica over and over in his mind. He refused to accept defeat, convinced that the Guardian's power could still be harnessed, if approached differently. Through covert channels, Torin reached out to sympathetic officers within the fleet. Together, they devised a bold plan. Instead of attacking the Guardian outright, they would target its connection to Earth's magnetic field. By disrupting this link, they hoped to weaken the shield long enough to seize control. It was risky, but Torin believed it was their best chance. Under cover of darkness, Torin's allies smuggled him aboard a small scout ship equipped with experimental technology designed to manipulate electromagnetic fields. With a skeleton crew loyal to his cause, Torin set course for Earth, determined to prove his theory correct. Back on Earth, Emily and her team detected unusual fluctuations in the Guardian's energy field. At first, they thought it might be a natural adjustment, but the changes grew increasingly erratic. Alarms blared in the lab as sensors registered a spike in activity near the South Pole. "Something's coming," Daniel said urgently, checking the readings. "We need to warn the others." Jake and Sarah arrived moments later, having received the alert remotely. Together, they analyzed the data, quickly realizing that another intrusion was imminent. "It's Torin," Jake muttered grimly. "He's not done yet." The group sprang into action, activating the device they had built to amplify the Guardian's energy. If they could boost its protective field, they might be able to repel Torin's attack before it caused irreparable harm. As they powered up the machine, the metallic fragments began vibrating intensely, their glow growing brighter with each passing second. High above, Torin's ship approached the fissure, its systems locked onto the source of the Guardian's power. He smirked confidently, believing victory was within reach. But as they prepared to fire their weapon, the Guardian reacted violently. A massive surge of energy erupted from the fissure, engulfing the ship in a blinding flash of light. Systems failed instantly, and the vessel plummeted toward the ice below. On board the Ecliptic Dawn, Commander Varric received reports of the incident with a mixture of relief and frustration. "Torin has been neutralized," Kale reported solemnly. "His ship crashed in Antarctica. No survivors." Varric sighed deeply, knowing the cost of Torin's ambition. "Let this serve as a lesson to us all. Earth is untouchable, not because of its weapons or defenses, but because of the Guardian. Any attempt to interfere will end in failure." For now, the threat had passed. On Earth, Emily and her team watched as the Guardian's energy stabilized once more. The metallic fragments returned to their gentle hum, their glow softening as the danger subsided. Though shaken, the group felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had witnessed the Guardian's strength firsthand, and understood the responsibility that came with protecting its secrets. As the days passed, life on Earth returned to normal. Most people remained unaware of the cosmic drama that had unfolded above their heads. But for those who knew the truth, the memory of the Guardian's vigilance lingered, a reminder that humanity's survival depended on respecting the delicate balance keeping their world safe. The aftermath of General Torin's failed assault left the Zarnak Collective shaken. Commander Varric convened a final council meeting aboard the Ecliptic Dawn to address the fleet and solidify their stance on Earth. Standing before his officers, he spoke with authority, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Earth is untouchable," he declared. "The Guardian has made that clear. Any further attempts to interfere will not only fail, but could endanger us all. From this day forward, we will respect its boundaries." Kale nodded in agreement, adding, "The Guardian's power is beyond anything we've encountered. It's not just protecting Earth, it's safeguarding the balance of the galaxy. Disrupting that could have consequences none of us can predict." Rin, who had been analyzing data from the recent events, presented her findings. The Guardian adapts to threats. Its energy field grows stronger when provoked, and it responds with precision. This isn't blind destruction, it's calculated defense. Varric turned to the assembled officers, his gaze steady. "We leave Earth alone. That is my final order." With that, the meeting adjourned, and preparations began for the fleet's departure. The Ecliptic Dawn would retreat to deep space, far beyond the reach of the Guardian's shield, while drones remained behind to monitor Earth silently. General Torin's betrayal cast a long shadow over the collective. His actions were condemned as reckless and selfish, serving as a stark reminder of the dangers of arrogance. Though Torin was gone, his legacy lived on as a cautionary tale. No one aboard the fleet dared question Varric's decision again. Back on Earth, Emily Dawson and her coalition reflected on the events that had unfolded. They had witnessed the Guardian's immense power firsthand, and it had changed them. Emily sat in her lab late one night, staring at the metallic fragments floating peacefully in midair. Their glow was soft now, almost comforting, but she couldn't shake the weight of what they represented. Daniel joined her, holding a cup of coffee. "You think we'll ever fully understand it?" he asked quietly. Emily shook her head. "Maybe not completely, but we're getting closer. Every test, every discovery, it's like putting together pieces of a puzzle." Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett continued their efforts to manage public perception. By carefully crafting explanations for the strange phenomena, they managed to keep panic at bay. Governments and media outlets accepted their narratives about geomagnetic storms and atmospheric anomalies, allowing the coalition to operate without interference. Still, Jake knew the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. What happens if someone else finds out? He asked during a video call with Emily and Daniel. Not everyone will see the Guardian as something to protect. Sarah chimed in, her voice firm. Then it's our job to make sure they do. We've seen what happens when people try to exploit it. Humanity needs to learn to coexist with it, not fight against it. The group agreed to expand their coalition cautiously, bringing in trusted experts from various fields. Engineers worked on developing technologies inspired by the Guardian's energy patterns, aiming to harness its power responsibly. Scientists collaborated to study its effects on Earth's ecosystems, hoping to better understand how it interacted with the planet. Policymakers drafted plans to prepare for future encounters, ensuring humanity would be ready if the Guardian ever reacted aggressively again. One evening, Emily gathered everyone for a meeting. She placed a map on the table, showing the areas where the Guardian's energy was strongest. These are its key points, she explained. Fault lines, tectonic plates, polar regions, they're all connected. If we want to protect Earth, we need to focus on these areas. Daniel added, and we need to document everything. If something happens to us, others should know what we've learned. Jake nodded. We'll create a secure database. Only those we trust will have access. As they worked together, the four of them realized how much they had grown. What started as individual pursuits had become a shared mission, a responsibility they carried with pride. They weren't heroes in the traditional sense, but they understood that their role mattered deeply. Months passed, and life on Earth returned to normal for most people. Cities buzzed with activity, unaware of the silent sentinel watching over them. Birds sang, oceans flowed, and seasons cycled as they always had. But for Emily, Daniel, Jake, and Sarah, the world felt different. They saw the beauty of Earth through new eyes, knowing it was protected by something ancient and powerful. On the ecliptic dawn, the Zarnuk fleet prepared for its journey into deep space. Commander Varric stood on the observation deck, gazing at Earth one last time. The shimmering shield encasing the planet glowed faintly, a testament to the Guardian's enduring presence. He felt a mix of awe and humility, realizing how small they truly were in the grand scheme of the universe. Cale approached him, holding a tablet with the latest readings. The Guardian's energy field is stable, he reported. No signs of further disturbances. Varric nodded. Good. Let's hope it stays that way. As the fleet departed, the drones remained behind, silently monitoring Earth from afar. For now, the Zarnuk Collective would leave humanity alone, respecting the boundaries set by the Guardian. But they also knew they couldn't forget what they had learned. Earth was special, a rare gem in an otherwise chaotic galaxy. Years later, the memory of the Guardian lingered among those who had witnessed its awakening. Emily Dawson became a respected figure in the scientific community, advocating for responsible research and environmental stewardship. Daniel Carter published groundbreaking papers on quantum mechanics, inspired by the Guardian's energy patterns. Jake Monroe and Sarah Bennett founded an organization dedicated to studying unexplained phenomena, using their platform to educate others about the importance of balance and respect. Though humanity continued to evolve, the Guardian remained a constant presence, its shield glowing faintly around the planet. It didn't interfere with daily life, but it reminded everyone, whether they knew of its existence or not, that Earth was precious and worth protecting. In the end, the story of the alien empire and the secret of Earth's untouchability became a legacy passed down through generations. It wasn't written in history books or celebrated in monuments. Instead, it lived in the quiet determination of a few individuals who understood the delicate balance keeping their world safe. And so, Earth stood untouched, not because of weapons or armies, but because of the silent Guardian buried deep within its crust, watching over all who called it home.